Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here. It is the Earthmaster on this finally Friday, January 19th, 2024 date. It is about 11:40 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity on the globe shows a .9, little, very small earthquake out here in Southern Cal. We'll get to the earthquake activity here in just a little bit. I want to cover the activity first around the Svartsengi area, Grindavik region of Iceland. This is the latest statement put out here today from the Icelandic Met Office, stating that magma most likely no longer flowing into the magma intrusion dike, which formed on January 14th, and that the eruption has officially ended. An updated hazard assessment still estimates that the danger of fissures within Grindavik is high. So it looks as though for now eruptive fissure activity is over. The question is going to be asked, for how long? How long is this going to stay quiet? There is clear signals of a continued land uplift beneath the Svartsengi area. It's still too early to assert whether the rate of the land uplift has increased since prior to the eruption on the 14th of January. The first measurement suggests that it is the case, but as previously been written, measurements can fluctuate from one day to the next, and a longer timeline of measurement is needed to be able to, see how maybe potentially the next eruption takes place here. Even though we're looking at earthquake activity slowing down, certain signals of deformation going down, there's still that high possibility here of eruptive fissure activity to hit this region in the future. And this right here is the latest GPS deformation data around the Svartsengi area. Notice here, we're still kind of going up. When we zoom in, I kind of have to zoom into this map here real quick so we can see these little red dots. We can see that in the last couple days it's gone down slightly, but not any type of significant drop there in the inflation. And if we look at the real-time data around Grindavik itself, we can see that the data is still going up. Now, this station, I believe, is one of the stations that went offline here when that magma or the lava went over that GPS equipment out there. So it looks as though this one right here is going to be the more accurate, up-to-date one. And as you can see, we're still going up. We're still going up and up and up. So, there's a little bit of conflicting wording in here that magma is no longer flowing into the area. Right here it says that seismic activity continues to decrease in the area of the magma dike, and deformation signals seen on GPS devices suggest significant slowdown of ground movement compared to previous days. This information suggests that the magma is no longer flowing into the dike and the eruption has ended. GPS measurements also show small deformation within Grindavik. There is still high danger of fissure activity. So, they're stating that the magma is no longer flowing into the area, so to speak, there below the region. But all of the GPS data here, for the most part, is showing that it still is. If we're getting ground uptick, right, inflation, then obviously it's not just rising due to no reason. It's rising because we're still seeing further magma into the area. So I still think it's something that's going to happen here soon again. It may be around a couple weeks or so before we see continued activity as far as eruptive activity. And I still think it's going to lead more south into Grindavik and then eventually possibly offshore here. Here's the latest updated map from the Icelandic Met Office. Let me back out here a little bit and make this a little bit smaller so we can see it. So they've lowered these threat levels 3 and 4, but it's still the highest area out here. There's currently no eruptive fissure activity taking place here, but there's still the future of earthquakes, fractures, lava flow, eruptive fissures without warning. The potential out here is still great. Notice that they have it marked more down south. We watched the that is wrong right here, I believe, right? That should be December, not January. Remember December, so they made a little boo-boo right here on their site. That should be December 21st, 2023. Lava extent. That's a lava flow back in December. And notice our next eruptive fissure down here. It's taken this path right here because of that that barrier, that wall. Otherwise, this would flow right into town. So they did a good job of diverting that flow. That's why it looks a little odd, right? On a map, you would think it would flow just south. But, man, we're really smart, right? Majority of us, I would say. But they did a good job of preventing that magma from flowing directly into town. Of course, unfortunately, there was that secondary fissure, which was further south of the one that opened up there on the 15th of January. So I believe, and I feel the level of GPS out here still being elevated would put further activity opening up potentially down south here into the Grindavik area itself and potentially offshore here. Right now, we're at a pause, right? Similar to what we've seen back in January. We've seen a little bit of deflation following this lava event, right? A little bit of a release of pressure below. Not so much release of pressure from this, though. So I still think we're looking at the potential of activity kicking up here in the near future once we get some further rift zone activity, right? These rift zones out here kind of spreading apart, and we've noticed here in the past or before the past couple eruptions around the Grindavik area, earthquake activity uptick offshore south here into the oceanic divergent zones. Let me bring up the USGS map here. We've seen this both in December and January's eruption. We've seen earthquake activity ramp up along this divergent boundary. That would ultimately affect what's going on up here, right? And some activity as well north of Iceland. So we'll watch for that and see if things see if they kick back up. Right now we are getting a little bit of swarming north here, just off the north area of Iceland, around these rift zones. A little bit through this area as well. In the region around Grindavik, just a handful of earthquakes. But, you know, the time frame here could be a couple weeks to maybe a month or so before we see fissure activity open up. But as long as we got that, as far as eruptive fissure activity open up here across this region, as long as we have that inflation happening underneath the area, I still think there's a likelihood of us seeing another eruption here soon. But this one, for now, they state that it's over in terms of the fissure activity up here. I'm just leaning more towards some activity potentially opening up south. So we'll continue to watch that. Again, GPS. This is the Grindavik. Look at that. It really hasn't slowed down. We're still going on the uptick here. We are still on the uptick. So we'll continue to watch that and report back on any changes. But for now, it's quiet. But watch for earthquake activity. Earthquakes give a telltale sign of what could be taking place. Similar to earthquake swarms around a major plate boundary or a major subduction zone. It's, it could be this could be like foreshocks or something to a bigger quake happening. In this case, it's prior to an eruption happening or eruptive fissure activity happening up there across Iceland. Another area, Big Island sits on a hot spot, right? It is a hot spot out here with the Pacific plate moving off towards the northwest. Hawaii Islands forming throughout time here. They've been weathered away, eroded away, so to speak, but they used to be them. Imagine if that was the case now, if they were still above the water level. That'd be a beautiful chain of islands, right? Imagine that. Imagine this whole section here being Hawaii. That would be crazy. With one long road, right? Traveling all across there. I'd go out there and check that out. Okay, way off topic, but back to volcano activity here. Seen some interesting movement out here in the past. I think it's been about the past 24 hours. There we go. Some activity off the west coast here of Hawaii, 3.4, about 8 kilometers deep. Some movement up around Mauna Kea, 2.8. Mauna Loa showing some activity as well. But this activity is generally, well, there's a shallow one. This one's fairly deep for that 2-pointer, 38 kilometers. And a couple other earthquakes down here that are relatively shallow here across the southwestern edge of the Mauna Loa region. So a little bit of newer activity that I'm noting out here across the region, but really not a whole lot across the Kilauea volcano. And this is the area that's seen, well, still seeing some inflation. Let's go check out the hazard notification system here from the HVO. Their daily update. The Kilauea volcano is currently not erupting. Over the past day, seismicity has remained or has been low, and no unusual activity has been observed at the summit or the southwest and east rift zones. Here's the important wording right here. Kilauea summit remains pressurized. In recent months, unrest has escalated quickly, and an eruption could occur in the future with little warning. Most of the time, though, we do see some earthquake activity, and a lot of it leading up to within half an hour or an hour of some activity opening up there in the ground. So we're not really seeing that elevated earthquake activity around the Kilauea volcano, and I'm tending to believe that this is going to take place right around here, outside of the crater region, or maybe even down in this area. This is just what I'm basing all my past information on due to the earthquake activity, the swelling that's going on out here. It just kind of makes sense. I don't know if we're going to see it up here across the lava lake area, where the past few eruptions have been confined, filling up that lake. Let's check out the tilt meter here and see what's going on for the volcano, Kilauea volcano. Give it a second. It's Friday. It doesn't feel like a Friday. It feels kind of like a Tuesday. I don't know why. Not for sure. A little odd today. Time frames. Okay, so we have gone back up as expected. I chatted about that. I didn't get a chance to do an update last night. Taking care of the kids and Missy Mimi's. We're a little sick. We're all a little under the weather here in the household. So we're kind of trying to get over that. But in the past couple of videos, I've talked about the trend that's going on here. This is the last 2 days. Notice that uptick. Now we're starting to go back up as expected. These events are followed. These inflation events are followed by at least a couple days of deflationary events, and then we go back up. We're on our way right now to going up this area, way up above our previous level of inflation. So I don't know how much longer this is going to be able to sustain the pressure underneath the ground there, because obviously magma is building up underneath this area. We haven't seen an eruption since the September time frame last year. So we are building, and this level of inflation is at its highest since 2018. I'm not just making that up. That has been stated many times here across the area of these updates. Let's see here. Maybe not in this one. It looks like maybe they took that off, but it is though. They've stated that. We would have to go back and check on other days. But yeah, so we're definitely up there, and I expect this to continue to rise a little bit above this previous level of inflation, and this will be the peak now, the highest it's been in since 2018 eruption, where that fissure activity opened up outside of this lava lake area, which is a lot fuller now. It doesn't look like that. I'll go back here real quick and check out live view real quick. See how it's looking. This is, well, get back out of here real quick. That one's off. There we go. Wow, looks like a beautiful sunny day out there. Beautiful bright blue skies. A little bit of clouds out there in the background. And some volcanic gases there, which it has been doing through the smallest cracks. It looks a little bit less active today. That could be maybe due to the drier conditions in the air. When it's very cloudy, cold, and moist, this volcanic gas, and what it does is it creates a lot of condensation in the air, kind of like clouds, like when you turn your hot shower on in a cold environment, right? It creates a lot of condensation and clouds. Basically, that's what they are, water droplets. And it looks more dramatic when it's colder up here, but not a whole lot of dramatic looking volcanic gases there today seeping out. But again, we'll continue to watch it. It's just one of those things. Pressure is going up and up and up and up. You know, it's not gonna be that way for much longer, I feel. And I think that we're leaning towards this area maybe having the eruptive fissure activity. But we'll continue to watch it and report back on any changes there, folks. But for now, it just keeps building. All right, earthquake activity overnight. Did see some larger movement. Of course, this 6.4 coming in yesterday afternoon in the Tonga area. Let's see what we've had since then. It looks like we've seen migrational pressure up across the plate boundary where it's expected. It just follows that trend here in terms of the plate movement and the migration of pressure in the area. We did see a couple more deeper quakes here recently in the last, well, since about 2 o'clock this morning, 7 o'clock right here. More deep earthquakes in the Tonga area that should amplify potentially up here as well. I know that's a pretty deep earthquake, right? Remember I said to watch this shallow area up here around the Tonga Trench. Let me bring back the last 7 days here of this area and chat about it. Because we've been seeing a lot of deeper movement out here and some signs of some surface strain right here. These 4 earthquakes, very shallow, 10 kilometers deep. This 6.4 struck a little bit further north than I was expecting and a little bit deeper, but I still think there's a possibility of seeing something larger along this region right here, just due to this little activity that was taking place here on the 14th. It looks like that's when they all came in. Well, we had one there on the 17th as well, so that just goes to tell you that things are strained up here across the surface level. So we'll watch this region. You know, 6.4, that was still somewhat deep. That potentially could have added further strain up here across the region. So we'll continue to watch that up north across the Japan area. Let's see, we did have one today, about 9 o'clock this morning, my time, 4.6, 10 kilometers deep here at the surface levels, just off that plate boundary. The Kurokamachaka, that sleeping giant, remains quiet for now. Not a whole lot of activity stirring up there across the area. Let's see what else we got. South of Australia, 4.6. In the western Indian Antarctic Ridge. Doesn't look like we've seen any adjustment across New Zealand, but let me double check that here real quick. Just give a quick glance at the New Zealand sites. And then we'll go from there. I was trying to find Timothy's site here, which is New Zealand or nzquakes.com. Pretty decent site, full of a lot of information: earthquake, volcano maps, Hawaii drums, live cams, volcano drums, images of the sun. Basically, an all-in-one earthquake and space weather site, which is pretty cool. Latest quake shows a 2.5 earthquake. That looks like that's going to be just offshore here, around the Hikurangi subduction zone, 80 kilometers deep. That's not good. Preliminary data right now. The strongest quake there was a 4.2. That was, I believe, a couple days ago, right? If I remember right. Yeah, back on the 18th there, local time, it looks like. So not a whole lot of information here in terms of newer activity. Let me give a quick glance here at the see where I'm at. I got way too many bookmarks. I don't know if anybody else does that, but man, I gotta put them in a category so I don't have so much trouble with those. There's that 2.2 8 hours ago. There's that one little earthquake there that Timothy had just had on his site. That's kind of interesting right there, because that is right on the Hikurangi subduction zone area. Preliminary. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. Aside from that, earthquake drums here. There's the 6.4 that struck in the Tonga area yesterday. That's coming up on 24 hours there. Almost looks like there was 2 earthquakes. You guys see that second reading? Interesting there. Unless this is just the way the seismographs pick up those distant earthquakes. But yeah, for the most part, New Zealand looking pretty quiet. They're not really seeing anything of noteworthy value. Let's see what else we got here. South America region showing some activity overnight. 5.6. Colombia, 60 kilometers deep. And then we got some further activity into the subduction zone there of the Peru-Chile Trench with a 4.8. Let's check out the coast, or the west coast up here, see what's going on. One earthquake out in the this little rift zone, divergent boundary. You can see the oceanic floor, new oceanic crust, I should say, out here. This is the spreading center. Out here, 3.3 earlier this morning in that same region. As far as the Pacific Northwest goes, got a little bit of activity up around the Mount Hood area. Very shallow earthquake activity, 1.0 and a 0.4, right smack dab at the summit region. But they do see earthquake activity from time to time. Let me check out the yeah, this is a tremor map from last night. Didn't get a chance to check that, but this is interesting here. It's right across from, those could be crustal quakes up there around Mount Hood, because we had some tremor activity just west of it. But this is underneath the area, about 45 kilometers into the subduction zone of the Cascadia. Notice we're starting to make a little southward trend here. Over the past week or so, most of our activity has been confined up here across the Olympia and Seattle area underneath this region, and that's associated with Cascadia subduction zone, which sits offshore. Let me go to the Mount Hood seismograph and see what's going on. There's those 2 little earthquakes. This is Palmer Lift. I don't know if this one works or not. It seems to always be picking up interference. Probably the lifts and the operations ongoing up there, but I just want to see. There's an earthquake. There's a secondary one, it looks like. I believe that's a secondary one. Let's see, what were the dates on this? 8 o'clock. Both were at 8 o'clock. So roughly about 4 hours ago. I'm guessing maybe right here, and then the secondary one right here. These are some type of outside interference around this seismograph station, but it almost looks like there was another earthquake here in the last hour or so. But aside from that, we're not really seeing anything major going on. No major swarm, no unusual volcanic activity there across Mount Hood for now. One little lonesome earthquake here around Unity, Oregon. That's from yesterday. Let's see, California-wise, let's see if we got anything major to chat about for California. Nothing above 2.5. Look at that. All in the microquake range. And that looks to be the case down here as well. One little earthquake down around the Yucca Valley area, 1.3. That is on the North American side of the plate boundary. The San Andreas Fault sleeps for now. Up at Yellowstone, looks like we got a little bit of activity stirring up right now. Little 0.2, nothing big. I was just checking out the Yellowstone seismograph. It looks like I ended it, so let me go back over and check it out. Not a whole lot of activity stirring up out here. This earthquake, let's see, that earthquake looks like it was centered more around, let me see where that's at. That could be one of the Idaho earthquakes, 3.5. That was from last night. That would make sense. Yeah, that would be last night's time period right here. So that's going to be the 3.5 here, it looks like, around Chalice, or Idaho. That would make sense with this time period. I was looking at this graph here because it doesn't look like a local earthquake. It looks like it's distant. It is showing up more over here closer to Idaho, not so much over here away from Idaho. So that would make sense in the terms of that reading right here. That's going to be the earthquake over in Idaho. But aside from that, Yellowstone activity directly looks fairly quiet. Oil fields out here getting hit all over Texas again. Looks a lot more active than, at least regionally across the area, than it has been. We're getting these broader areas of earthquake activity across various oil fields. Fairly certain that this one is one as well. We've got some nearby, quite a bit nearby. Wastewater pond, all these little boxes out here. Actually, actually looks like they're older pumping operations out here. But either way, one lonesome earthquake out in that area of Texas, and I'm sure there will be lots more to come in the future. One little earthquake in the New Madrid seismic zone. That's going to be a 1.4 near Tiptonville, Tennessee. That was from yesterday, it looks like. And what do we got here for the Mediterranean, Middle East area? A couple fours coming in, it looks like. Nothing big going on. Look at the earthquake 3D globe, does show some of that activity. We'll keep an eye on the Atlantic Ocean. Watch the divergent zones up here across Iceland. That could be key to seeing some future eruptive fissure activity soon. I don't think it's over. When it's over, basically everything goes down, not up, in terms of inflation. So definitely keep an eye on the Iceland area for now. All right, space weather activity. Goodness. We're down into the B flare category once again, folks. Goodness. Very minimal conditions out here in terms of the solar flares. Looks like we did see a little C flare overnight, maybe an eruptive one. Not for sure where that took place, but look at the magnetogram. Let's see what we got here for any complexity of any of these sunspots. I was hoping to wake up and see some of these, growing rapidly, but that is not the case. Got some activity out here. This little sunspot, I think it's named 3559 is a sunspot name. That one, I think, is our only hope of maybe seeing some flaring. Have to keep an eye on that. Aside from that, things are very quiet across the rest of these sunspots. There's numerous sunspots, but we could have 1,000 sunspots here on the sun, and if one is not complex in terms of magnetic complexity, then they'll just look like this. They'll just be floating across a visible disk here, and they won't produce any type of significant flaring. So we need some complexity to create the strong flaring that is not in the forecast. 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 20, X flare around 1% chance, and so therefore the auroras are pretty much out of sight, out of mind. Not going to be happening. We did have a little bit though last night, kick up out of the blue. Some space wind coming in, amplifying a little bit of conditions around the KP index of 3 or so. But we don't have anything major in the forecast. Nothing really to chat about there. All right, Storm Prediction Center here. Slight chance of thunderstorms out here across the west coast, California, limited to the the extreme coastal range here, it looks like, of California, and a little bit of thunderstorm activity in Florida. But aside from that, no severe weather threat. Here is our first storm system out here on the West Coast in a series of weather systems that's supposed to impact our area. First one's going to bring some rainfall. It looks like they backed off a little bit on that first system as far as the amount. That's coming in here in a couple hours or so. And then our next storm system comes in, looks like maybe as we head into Sunday and Monday, bringing with it some rainfall to Southern California as well. Yeah, they backed off on the precipitation amounts out here. Now, that's just a GFS run. Let me check the ECMWF, see what these guys are showing. See, these guys are showing a little bit more consistency of goodness, of precipitation accumulation. That's kind of what I want to see out here. I'm hoping that I keep my voice here. Everyone's sick, and it's I think it's getting to me as well. So I'm going to load up on some vitamin C, I think, because I have to have my voice. Otherwise, I'll be doing updates out here with AI. It'll be a robot sound, right? Hi, this is the Earthmaster. Today we are looking at... Yeah, I can imagine that. That would not be good. That would not be good. Hey, but it would work, right? Yeah, so total accumulated precipitation out here looking at less. I've noticed that on my weather app as well. They were forecasting around 3 to 4 inches for my neck of the woods here in Northern Cal. Now it's a little bit less. So, you know, these things, they come and go. It's hard to really nail down the exact precipitation amounts out here, but I guess this is better than nothing. So I better not complain too much, because at least something's coming in. But goodness, did they took that down big time around the Chico area. It looks like maybe, if we're lucky, maybe we'll pick up just barely an inch now. We'll see, though. Hopefully that changes. Never know. They go back and forth. The next run could show something different. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Again, keep an eye on Iceland. The key to watching that is earthquake activity, right? And not only locally here, but if we start seeing larger scale movement like we had seen leading up to the eruption here in Iceland a couple days ago, and also the activity that kicked up back in December, there was earthquake activity south and north here around these rift zones, which are ultimately affecting what's going on here across this area. So we'll keep an eye on that. Once we start seeing further earthquake uptick across this area, then we will be looking at eruption possibilities happening soon again. But for now, just relatively stable. All right, folks, Friday, have a good one. I don't think I'm going to barbecue. Normally I do when the rain comes in, but I don't know if I want to stand out in the rain and barbecue. Sounds fun, but then again, maybe I want to stay dry. Take care, folks. Enjoy your Friday. We'll catch you guys back out here for the Friday night update. See if we can't get Missy Mimi's to jump in. She's probably not. She's probably not going to, so I don't want to put her on the spot there with her being under the weather. Take care. Have a good day. See ya.